It has a lot of different possible ratios, so we want to know exactly what to do so that we can put it in a new project.
Alright, so what we've done then is jacked up the rear axle, and we jacked it up right from the center section. I'm going to mark it here on the drive shaft, count the revolutions on the tire, and that's going to give me the gear ratio that's in this 10-bolt rear axle. And that way we'll know if we can use it, if it'll be appropriate for our build. What I can tell you for sure is that rear U-joint is worn out. There is a lot of play in that. Alright, so let's see what we get here. Okay, so by counting the ratios, we've got just about 2 turns of the drive shaft to 1 rotation of the tire, which we'll multiply that by 2, and that'll give us what our rear end ratio is in the diff. I'm guessing it's 373. It's a little more than 1 3/4 turns, and it's less than 2 full turns. So I'm going to go ahead and do that math here, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be 373s. Alright guys, so good news. I climbed underneath the rear end of this thing to get a little more information about it and see what kind of gear ratios we had, what the width of the axle from mounting surface to mounting surface was, so we can determine if we can use this rear end along with this motor in a different transmission. We're going to use a 5-speed transmission behind it. Don't want to tell you too much about it yet. Don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we can make use of this rear axle. It's 64.5 inches wide, which is your standard quarter-ton width rear axle. Gear ratios are 373. The way I determined that, as you saw in the video, is jacked up the rear end, put a wrench under one tire on one side so that it couldn't rotate, and then rotated the opposite tire one full rotation. I took the number of drive shaft turns, which was a little bit over 1 3/4, and it was less than 2 turns. It was more like 1 7/8, somewhere in there. Multiply that times 2, and that tells you pretty closely what your ratio is. So then I looked at the available gear ratios for a 10-bolt rear end, GM rear end, and it's either 355 or 410s, and it's definitely not 410s because that would be over two rotations. And it's definitely not 355s because that would be 1.5 rotations. So I'm pretty sure we've got 373 gears in there, which is perfect for what we want to do. It's going to be a street application, so 373s will give you a little more bite, but you'll still be able to cruise on the freeway comfortably in 5th gear or 6th gear if we go with T56. So I'm real happy to find out that we can use this rear end. The rear end that's currently in the project truck is probably in a lot worse shape than this one. This rear end in the donor has a loose U-joint, the yoke felt tight, the axle bearings felt tight, so that's a plus. I won't really know until I crack it open and see what kind of condition the rear end's actually in, but right now it looks like we can make use of this, so we're going to go ahead and plan to use this rear end in the project. And I've written all the details on the dry erase board so I don't forget what we've got in there.